Imagine standing on the bridge of a destroyer in the South Pacific. It is 1942. The moon is obscured by heavy clouds. The world around you isn't just dark, it is an absolute, suffocating void. You are a lookout. Your entire ship, the lives of 300 men depend on your eyes. You are straining to see a silhouette blacker than the night itself. But out there, in the gloom of the Solomon Islands, a predator is hunting you. And the terrifying truth is, they can see you, but you cannot see them. For the first year of the Pacific War, the United States Navy was being slaughtered after sundown. The Japanese Imperial Navy owned the night. They had trained for decades in nocturnal warfare. They possessed the finest optics in the world, and they possessed the Long Lance torpedo. So advanced, Allied intelligence refused to believe it existed. The Type 93 Long Lance could strike from 20,000 yards away, unseen, trackless, and lethal. Before a U.S. commander could even give the order to search for a target, his ship was already breaking in half. The humiliation peaked at the Battle of Savo Island. In just 37 minutes, a Japanese force slipped into the Allied formation and erased 4 heavy cruisers from the map. Over 1,000 Allied sailors died. It wasn't a battle, it was an execution. The morale of the U.S. Navy began to crack. Sailors spoke of the Tokyo Express, the Japanese reinforcement convoys that ran with impunity down the slot of the Solomons. We were the technological giant of the world, yet we were fighting blindfolded. But wait, didn't we have radar? Yes, we had the SC radar. But in the confined waters of the Solomons, the SC radar was worse than useless. It was a liar. The early SC radar operated on a wavelength of 1.5 meters. In the open ocean, it was fine. But in the narrow straits of the Solomon Islands, the radar waves bounced off everything. Islands, rain squalls, humidity. The operator's screen was a mess of ground clutter. A Japanese destroyer hugging the coastline simply vanished into the noise. The radar operator couldn't tell a warship from a mountain. And because the radar was unreliable, the admirals stuck to a deadly doctrine. The rule was simple: do not fire until you have visual confirmation. In the age of swords, this made sense. In the age of the Long Lance torpedo, it was suicide. By the time a lookout physically saw the enemy at 4,000 yards, the Japanese had already fired their torpedoes 5 minutes ago. We were bringing a knife to a gunfight, and we were waiting until we got stabbed to draw our weapon. The solution wouldn't come from the bridge of a battleship. It would come from a secret laboratory at MIT and a gift from the British. This is the cavity magneton. It looks like a simple copper block, but in 1940, it was the most precious object on Earth. It allowed engineers to generate high-power microwaves at incredibly short wavelengths, specifically 10 centimeters. Compare that to the 1.5 meters of the old radar. The difference was like switching from a blurry painting to a high-definition photograph. This technology birthed the SG radar. The SG radar introduced the PPI, the Plan Position Indicator. For the first time, the captain didn't see squiggly lines. He saw a map. He saw his ship in the center and every other object plotted in perfect relation to him. It could separate a ship from a rock. It could see through rain. It could spot a periscope at 10,000 yards. The U.S. Navy finally had eyes that could pierce the dark. But there was one problem left. Technology is useless if you are too stubborn to use it. The gun club, the senior officers who grew up on battleships, still didn't trust the magic box. They insisted on using destroyers as defensive shields for the big cruisers. They insisted on visual sighting. It would take a maverick to shatter this tradition. Enter Commander Arleigh Burke, later known as 31-Knot Burke. Burke looked at the slaughter of the previous year and realized the mistake. We were using destroyers defensively. Burke argued for a new doctrine. The destroyer is not a shield, it is an assassin. His plan was radical. Trust the SG radar implicitly. Do not wait for visual contact. If the radar says there is a ship, you shoot. Detach the destroyers from the cruisers. Let them hunt alone in the dark. Launch torpedoes on radar bearings before the enemy knows you are there. It was a gamble. Firing blindly based on electronic blips, it went against a century of naval tradition. But in August 1943, the Navy was desperate enough to try. The test came in the Vela Gulf. A Japanese Tokyo Express convoy, 4 modern destroyers carrying troops and supplies, was racing down the slot. Waiting for them was Commander Frederick Moosbrugger. He commanded Task Group 31.2. He had no cruisers, no battleships, just 6 destroyers equipped with SG radar and Arleigh Burke's new playbook. At 23:33 hours, the radar screen on the flagship USS Dunlap glowed. 4 distinct blips, range 19,000 yards. The Japanese lookouts, with their legendary night vision, saw nothing. The ocean was black. In the past, an American commander would have closed in to verify the target visually, likely getting torpedoed in the process. Moosbrugger did the opposite. He trusted the electronics. He ordered his ships to hug the dark coastline, masking their own radar return against the mountains, rendering themselves invisible to the older Japanese detectors. He closed the range, 10,000 yards, 7,000 yards, 4,000 yards. The Japanese had no idea they were being stalked. They were sailing into a trap set by mathematics and microwaves. At 23:41, Moosbrugger gave the order, not for guns, but for torpedoes. 24 American torpedoes hit the water. But here's the genius of the new doctrine. The US ships did not open fire with their guns. They remained silent. They didn't produce a muzzle flash to give away their position. The torpedoes ran for 4 minutes. 4 minutes of agonizing silence. The Japanese steamed on, comfortable in the darkness. Then, hell opened up. In the span of 60 seconds, 3 of the 4 Japanese destroyers, Harigaze, Arashi, and Kawakaze, were struck. Their magazines detonated. It was immediate devastation. They were sinking before they could even rotate their turrets. They never saw the Americans. They never fired a single torpedo in return. Only then, with the enemy crippled and burning, did Moosbrugger order the guns to open fire. It was target practice. The 4th Japanese destroyer turned and fled, the only survivor to tell the terrifying tale. The Battle of Vela Gulf was over. It was the first time in the Pacific War that US destroyers had engaged a Japanese force at night and achieved a perfect victory. No US ships were damaged. No US sailors were killed. Vela Gulf changed everything. It proved that the era of the Mark I eyeball was over. The era of electronic warfare had begun. The SG radar didn't just find ships, it gave American commanders the confidence to act. It stripped the Japanese Navy of their greatest advantage, the cover of night. The predator had become the prey. Burke's doctrine became the standard. The US Navy transformed from a hesitant force into a relentless hunter-killer machine. By 1944, the darkness of the Pacific was no longer a place of fear for American sailors, because we had learned to see the invisible. And in modern warfare, if you can be seen, you can be killed.